Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be asking the question: Can you change your sex? Is a sex change really possible or not? So I found this YouTuber. Her name is Quinn Birkholz. I think I'm saying that right. If not, sorry about that, Quinn. But yeah, she's a trans YouTuber, and she has an opinion on whether or not you can change your sex. So let's see what Quinn has to say about this question.
So no, sex isn't binary, and it isn't binary for any of us, intersex or otherwise. But now here's another question. Is it changeable? And I mean, yeah. If you're truly interested in engaging with the realities of science and biology in good faith, then you have to acknowledge that sex is, at least to a certain degree, changeable. Amongst the sex changes I mentioned earlier, genitals, nose size, cheek fat, hairline, lip size, height, fat distribution, hip size, muscle size and development, libido, mood and personality, breast size, body and facial hair growth and placement, voice size and skin softness are all changeable via undergoing hormone replacement therapy, or HRT. That means that combining testosterone-based and estrogen-based HRT, 71% of sex characteristics are modifiable and in some cases completely changeable via HRT, give or take a couple of percentages based on whether you're trans-masc or trans-femme. Now, with the sex characteristics remaining, all are modifiable via surgery apart from chromosomes, which is to say that according to this example, 95% of your primary and secondary sex characteristics can be completely changed by a combination of surgery and HRT. So yes, transphobes, there is some degree of your biological sex that is immutable and unable to be changed. And it happens to be the part of your sex that is invisible to absolutely fucking everyone and has pretty much no real relationship with how we engage with sex or gender in society. But yes, even though 95% of your sex can be changeable, that 5% of you will always truly be probably at least like a little bit connected to the sex you were assigned at birth, but also maybe not even then, because chromosomes are weird and don't even always have a direct impact on our sex development at all. But, you know, take that, libs. Now, there's another element at play here, which
Okay, wow. There's a lot to say here, a lot to unpack, but um, she basically just listed a lot of yeah, as she said, primary and secondary sex characteristics. Your fat levels, like, oh, you go on hormones, you get a little bit more fat. Like if you go on testosterone, you might grow a beard. You might grow breasts if you're on estrogen. So, does this prove that you can change your sex? No, because what is sex? Sex is a evolutionary strategy that developed out of asexual development, and sex essentially has to do with your gametes. That is the core evolutionary strategy of sex. It has to do with your gametes. You have small gametes, sperm, and large gametes, eggs. Those are the options. And that is what the entire evolutionary basis for hundreds of millions, if not billions of years is all about. It's about sperm and egg. And the entire evolutionary history of creatures who have sperm and creatures who have eggs, they have different evolutionary mating strategies. So because sperm are so cheap to produce and because they're so mobile, that incentivizes a different evolutionary mating strategy compared to the creatures who only produce a small number of very expensive to create eggs. And furthermore, there is a functional difference such that the egg carries like more nutrients essentially, and the sperm has a smaller contribution. It essentially is a fertilizer, but the egg contains more nutrients, so the sperm contributes less nutrient material to the zygote or whatever. I'm not sure about that exactly, if that's the right terminology, but essentially there's a functional difference such that the sperm is contributing less of the nutrient material for the sustenance of the zygote or embryo and the subsequent development, because the egg is bigger and larger. Why is it bigger and larger? Because it is playing a different functional role. And so you have these two types of creatures, males and females, and they play different functional roles and they have different mating strategies. And this has shaped the entire history of the evolution of sex, of sexual reproduction. It's all about sperm and eggs. And developmentally, when you are, going down a sexual developmental pathway, you can only go down one of two pathways. You can go down the sperm pathway or you can go down the egg pathway. And in other species, non-human, you can sort of like at one point in your life. So for example, clownfish, they go down the sperm pathway and they can switch into the egg pathway. And for some species, you can have, both pathways existing in the same individual at the same time. But for humans, and like 99.999% of cases, you either go down the sperm pathway or the egg pathway. That is the developmental pathway that you go down. And this is what biologists mean by sex. This is what evolutionary biologists mean by sex. Like, it's all about gametes. It's about the different mating strategies, the different evolutionary strategies that have to do with your gametes. This is what sex is about. It's not about primary and secondary characteristics. It's not even about your chromosomes, because while it is true that your chromosomes play a role in determining which pathway you go down in terms of whether you're going down the male pathway or the female pathway, the sperm pathway or the egg pathway, ultimately what it means to be male or female has to do with which pathway you go down, sperm or egg. So while chromosomes do play a role in the mechanisms by which you go down which pathway, they sort of help determine which pathway you go down. But in some creatures, it's not necessarily about the chromosomes themselves that determine whether you go down the male or female pathway. It is actually the temperature that determines which pathway you go down, male or female. But in terms of like the deciding whether you're male or female, it's not like, so in temperature, we wouldn't say that there's an infinite number of sexes, because there are a infinite gradation of temperatures that can determine whether you go down the male or female pathway. It's binary. There's sperm and egg, and you go down the sperm pathway or the egg pathway, and that's it. And hormones and surgeries and all this stuff has nothing to do with changing your sex. You cannot change your sex. You go down the sperm pathway and that's it. You're stuck on the sperm pathway for the rest of your life. And it doesn't matter if you later go on to, castrate yourself or go on hormones and you stop the production of your sperm. It doesn't matter if you get a hysterectomy. It doesn't matter if your sperm production doesn't work in the present moment. It's still at the moment of conception, you sort of go down a particular pathway. You go down the sperm pathway or the egg pathway. And that is what makes you male or female. It has nothing to do with primary and secondary characteristics. So this idea that if you go on hormones and you get surgery, you can change 95% of your sex. No, that is not how it works. You either go down the male pathway or the female pathway. And this idea that intersex or hormones and surgeries that it somehow challenges the sex binary. No, nothing can challenge the sex binary in humans, because you're either on one pathway or the other. That's it. Now, there are, in very, 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 very rare cases, some intersex or DSD people who are true hermaphrodites insofar as they have both testes and ovaries at the same time. But that is very, very rare, and very, very rare edge cases do not negate the existence of the fact that for pretty much everyone, you're either on one or another of the pathways. So that does not challenge the binary. Very, 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 very small percentages of edge case do not challenge a binary, and they do not make it super complicated. It doesn't make it an infinite spectrum. It doesn't make it malleable. You're either male or you're female, and that's it. And intersex and trans don't challenge that. That's the thing that people don't understand. And this idea that, oh, it's all fluid, it's all a spectrum, you take hormones, you're changing all this, I have breasts now, so therefore I'm female, or like, I have different fat distribution, or I smell different, or, like my body is, running on estrogen, so therefore I'm female. No, you are a male who has taken hormones. You are a male who has changed certain aspects of your body due to the presence of the HRT. But that does not negate the fact you're male, because the ultimate evolutionary biological concept of what sex is such that you cannot change it, because it is about going down these developmental pathways such that you organize your body around the production of sperm or egg. And that is it. That's all it is. So this whole thing is very confused, very ignorant about what the true science of male and female is all about. So this is a massive misconception. I see it all the time. And it sort of appropriates intersex and DSD to sort of think that that somehow supports trans activism in some way or another. And look, I'm not against adults taking hormones if that is the best decision for them and they are capable of giving informed consent. But that I think we need to educate people, though, that if you're born male, you will always be male. And this idea that, if you're going to, that transition can somehow turn a male to a female, like even the common M to F to M nomenclature, like it is very misleading, because there's a lot of trans women out there who think they're female. And that's just false. That's just wrong. It's just wrong-headed. It's ignorant. It doesn't fit with the facts. It doesn't fit with how evolutionary theory works. It doesn't fit with how evolutionary biology works. The most parsimonious, logical, and consistent notion of what it means to be male or female has to do with gametes. That is the evolutionary basis of the very adaptive purpose of why sex evolved in the first place. Like, where did sex come from? It came from somewhere. Like, sex evolved. It wasn't like the very first living organisms on this planet weren't reproducing sexually. Sexual reproduction with sperm and eggs evolved as an adaptive feature. And there's not a third gamete. So there's it is a binary. And so I just wanted to correct this misinformation. So because I think, if you're going to, take hormones and all this stuff, you should be aware of the very real facts that you cannot change your sex. You can sort of modify aspects of your body, but that is not the same as changing your sex. If you're born male, you will always be male. That is the facts. So thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.